What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to be explaining the exact same system that I use to help myself and my clients generate thousands of dollars every single month. Essentially, I partner up with online service-based businesses. So you can think of this as, coaches or even creators or educators on specific social media platforms. And they're basically educating their audience on a certain topic. So for example, like a fitness coach, dating coach, relationship coach, teaching people how to invest in real estate, teaching people how to invest in stocks, trade crypto, whatever it may be, basically teaching some sort of online service-based kind of business to their audience. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. So essentially what we do is we basically partner up with these creators, and they usually have a pretty decent following on Instagram. Not necessarily Instagram, but it could also be like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, even sometimes like Pinterest even works, for example. But essentially they have a decent sized audience, and they're educating their audience. That's really the only important aspects of the entire system itself. So as long as you have those two things, you can basically monetize the audience and generate thousands of dollars and liquidate that audience 100%. So what we want to do is we want to start off with the page itself. So in this case, we'll just talk about Instagram. So essentially Instagram is going to be your personal brand. It's the visible content, whether that be the reels that you post, the stories, etc. But the first thing that we actually do is we optimize the page and the bio. So what that looks like is, say for example, we partnered up with a fitness coach and someone wants to do online fitness coaching, for example. The biggest issue and the biggest mistake that I see a lot of coaches make is they don't change the name in their bio, right? It should have your first name. You can put like one of those slashes, and then after that put online fat loss coach or relationship coach, fitness coach, whatever it may be. So that way if anyone does look up and searches on Instagram's platform itself, you literally come up alongside the other competition, because it is a quite competitive space. So you want to be able to actually be seen on Instagram and be visible if people are looking up the services that you provide. Additionally, another thing that we do inside of the actual Instagram bio or that description itself is we add a link in bio, which would be the landing page. So we basically put a landing page that goes to the actual program that one coach might offer, one creator might offer, which I'll touch on in a little bit. So those are the biggest two things that a lot of people kind of skip over, but it kind of sets the foundation for everything else. So we'll kind of move into the actual traffic direction sources that we kind of utilize to be able to get people not only on the sales call, but also close on the sales call as well. So there's kind of two directions when it comes to this aspect. One would be paid ads and paid traffic, and the other is organic content. So paid traffic, you can think of running Instagram ads, whether that be on your stories, whether that be while you're scrolling on Reels. I've even seen some on like Facebook Marketplace. There's just a lot of ways to be able to monetize on Facebook and Instagram or Meta as a whole, and that's a really, really interesting route that a lot of people take. However, in this case in particular, what we usually do is we start off just organically. So organic is just the audience that you've already kind of had over the lifetime of your page, whether it be 5,000, 50,000 followers. That's essentially your organic audience that you're kind of able to capitalize on. And so the way you can kind of engage with them is just through content itself. In this case in particular, we'll just kind of move to the organic side of things. The biggest thing that we kind of do is we integrate an appointment setter inside of not only your Instagram page, but your business as a whole. So the real goal of the appointment setting process is we want to be able to have a 2-call close, in the sense that the first call that we have is going to be maybe a discovery, and the second call we can actually close, or we can go to this just straight closing on the second call. But regardless, what we need to do is have an appointment setter who's trained not only on your offer, but also is able to navigate all the conversations that you have, open up pain points, find desires, bridge the gap between both, and then book them in on a sales call. So essentially what we do is we train out appointment setters on every single offer that we have, and they'll create conversations inside the DMs, they'll guide the conversation, they'll personalize the messaging. So a lot of people like to use AI for the appointment setting process, and I'm sure we'll get there eventually. But as of right now, with the current technology, it just isn't reasonable to have AI basically take over the actual personal conversations that you should be having. We might as well just hire a setter out, and we only pay them based on commission for all of the appointments that they book once they do close. So not only that, but they're also able to follow up with prospects. So say for example, someone actually is interested in your service, and say for example you're a fitness coach and someone says, hey, how do I lose weight, or hey, how do I gain muscle? Instead of you just being involved in the nitty gritty and doing all that tedious labor where it's like telling people what to do, we can still help them in some sort of way by having a setter that's trained on the offer that can also guide them to a sales call to be able to close. Honestly, the appointment setting process is one of the most important processes of the entire system itself. Without a solid appointment setter that's one, trained on your offer, and two, can book meetings consistently, the business is not going to be able to generate substantial revenue in the long run. So that's super, super important. So after we do integrate an appointment setter and they're inside of your Instagram DMs and they're booking conversations, essentially what we want to do is we want to be able to direct them to that same landing page. And we funnel them to that optimized page that I mentioned that was in the bio when we first started optimizing the page. And inside of the landing page, you can basically think of it as just basically a website. And the lights are going out inside. I guess we're going dark. Okay, so we're going dark. Basically inside the landing page, there will be a VSL. And the VSL is a video sales letter, right? And a video sales letter is essentially a 8 to 10 minute video pitching exactly why your service or solution, whether it be coaching, mentorship, education, etc., is a perfect fit for said audience. So when they click on the link in bio, or when the appointment setter actually directs them to click on the link in bio, they'll essentially be able to watch that video, get super, super warm because they're like, oh wow, this program seems like it's an absolute perfect fit for me and I need to learn more. And then right below that VSL, we'll have a book a call button to be able to actually get them in on a sales call after they are super warm and they're interested in the program. Another thing that we might do, for example, sometimes is we might have an opt-in form. So what an opt-in form is we basically just take the name, email, and phone number of said prospect to allow them to watch the video. So say, for example, they come on the page and they try to click the actual VSL or video sales letter or try to book a call. It will say, please enter your information. I'm sure you're familiar with that. We get that information, then we can always hit those leads later because they'll be automatically added into our CRM. And that's another set of leads that we can email, we can call, etc. And we can definitely collect more cash from those guys later down the line if we ever wanted to. But honestly, the real key with the landing page itself is just to keep it super, super simple and don't overcomplicate it at all. We just want to basically be able to say at a very high level what we provide, who it's for, and why it's a good fit, and just have them book a call and go to the next step in the funnel or the system. And so the next step that we do is we essentially integrate a call booking page. Now you can basically think of this as Calendly, which is a third-party software. We embed this inside of the landing page, and we include our application inside of the exact same Calendly as well. Another mistake I see a lot of people make, especially at low volume, and it makes a little bit more sense when you have higher volume and higher lead flow, but they'll want to take them to some sort of separate application and then also take them to the Calendly and ask them basically the same questions or different questions even, and then have them book a call. This adds a little bit too much friction before the sales call and they end up dropping off a little bit too much. So what we want to do is we want to just be able to ask the exact same questions that we would ask on an application page inside the Calendly page. And so that way they're not only applying to the program, but they're actually booking in a call to be able to, one, actually achieve the results that they want, and then take the necessary steps to be able to get to those results. So another thing is we ask specific questions to ensure quality. So for example, what we'll do is we might ask what's your occupation, just so we have a better understanding of your lifestyle. So for example, that's a really good question to ask with fitness coaches because they're working with people that might have sedentary lifestyles where they're sitting at their desk all day, and it's important. So the way we ask it is we don't want to basically be able to understand how much they're making income-wise directly, but we can kind of use context clues to be able to determine, okay, if for example this guy, he's a janitor, he might not be able to afford a high-ticket program. We might have to funnel him to a low-ticket program or something like that. But it just gives you a little bit more context before the call. It's good to understand and know how much someone's willing to invest. So that way, you don't want to pitch someone $5K when they only have a couple $100 or just $1,000 to be able to spend on a program per month. So again, try to put the actual application inside the Calendly. I've seen a lot more results doing it that way. Then right after the actual Calendly itself, the next thing that we do is we take them to the thank you page. So a lot of people skip this step after the call's booked. Okay, whatever the call's booked, say for example, 2 to 3 days from now, and we just kind of wait it out. We don't want to really do that. We want to be able to nurture these leads, after they book a call, because if you think about it, they were really, really warm after they watched that video sales letter that I just mentioned, and that hotness or warmness of that lead might just end up dying off a little bit. So we want to be able to nurture those people after. So what we do is we redirect them after Calendly to a thank you page. And what the thank you page is, it basically tells them, hey, congratulations on booking a call. Here's a couple next steps inside the actual process itself. So what we do is we tell them to, one, accept like their calendar invite, given that, you know, our meeting's going to be on Google Meet or Zoom or whatever it may be. And then two, be sure to watch extra, you know, videos, case studies, testimonials of, you know, other clients that you've worked with. Now, this is really, really huge because a lot of times people might want to get on a call, but they don't actually know the services that you provide. They might feel like they don't trust you, they don't like you, they don't know you, etc. So we want to be able to really nurture these leads before the call, so that way, one, they're educated on the offer, and two, they're willing to pay, right? Because say, for example, you book a random call and you don't really know much about the person, you just came across their page and were just interested and booked a call. I would want to know a little bit more about someone and, you know, what they offer before I pay, you know, upwards of $2,000 or even, you know, just $1,000 for a program. So it's really, really important that, you know, with the thank you page, you're giving them additional, you know, instructions, but also providing more testimonials and case studies. So that way, you know, they trust you, they know, like, and trust you. That's the biggest thing, honestly. And then after the thank you page, they're immediately funneled into the lead nurturing system. So essentially, not only alongside them receiving the testimonials and case studies where they get to, you know you and they get to see what you've done with other clients, but we also want to make sure that they actually show up to the call and they're ready to pay. And they don't no-show. That's a big issue in this space, right? You don't want people booking the call and they don't show up. Now you're just wasting time and you're wasting money. So there's a few ways that we nurture leads inside of the actual process through our CRM. So what we do is we essentially send SMS notifications, nurture them with long-form content, and send email sequences. And so what you can think about is essentially before the call, what we want to do is we want to remind them and say, hey, you have a call coming up in 24 hours. You have a call coming up in 12 hours. You have a call coming up in 10 minutes. These are the type of texts that we send before the call, so that way they show up. Also, in that 5 minutes before text that we send, we actually include the actual Zoom or Google Meet link inside of that text. So there's absolutely no excuse whether they got the email or not. We basically just let them know and say, hey, like, here's the link, go ahead and join. Another thing that we do is we send email sequences. So we email them more social proof, it builds trust. The same way that we sent them to the thank you page, just more trust, more basically showing that we have authority in the space. And then last but not least, we might also send inside the email sequences long form content. So if, for example, these people came off of Instagram, they're, you know, absorbing a lot of short form content, so they're getting to know you, but a really, really good and key way to get people to know, like, and trust you is nurturing them with long form content. So you can think of this like YouTube videos or even long podcast style clips and videos. So that way, oh wow, they like get to see like, oh, this is what he's like if I were actually inside of the program, if he was actually, or if I was actually getting coached by, you know, said person. So it's really, really key to, you know, have at least a couple videos, maybe long form style, that can really nurture the prospects. So that way, again, they just know, like, and trust you and are willing to show up and actually pay for the service. And then honestly, that's kind of it. Now you just basically have the call with the closer. So whether it be you closing on the offer as the fitness coach, or you have, you know, a kind of lean team that's able to close for you, we essentially would have, you know, a fully trained closer on the offer who understands the business. And is closing, you know, high ticket clients on a weekly basis. So the biggest key is we want to be able to nurture these people, nurture these leads and prospects from the time they see your Instagram page all the way into the sales call. And so with this system in particular, you're able to not only make sure there's no leakage in the funnel, but people actually show up to the call and are educated on the offer itself. And that's kind of the system at a high level overview. One thing I do want to mention and want to walk through is some quick math of the system integration. So this is kind of really simple, but this puts it at a really good perspective on how this would kind of play out on an offer that's already running. So say, for example, you have an offer that's currently listed at $5,000 ticket price and you have 120 opt-ins per month. Say, for example, you integrate, you know, the email nurturing sequence, the text sequence, some long form content, a video sales letter, etc. And now you have, you know, just a slight bump of 10% in the show rate. And then say, for example, you know, you do a little bit of sales training, You integrate financing options on, the closing calls, etc., and your close rate literally increases only 10%. And by the way, 50% show up rate and 30% close rate here are still still well below KPI, and we could definitely hit, above these numbers. But just for this, example, we'll keep it pretty conservative. That would mean that we would have closed 8 more clients on the month, and we would have literally increased our revenue by 40 grand just by increasing the show rate and the close rate 10% respectively. So though it seems like this system's really simple, if you just tweak a few of these things into your system for your online-based business or coaching program, creator education program, etc., I promise this will make a huge, huge difference in the long run. So yeah, that's kind of a system at a high level overview. It's pretty simple, but be sure to try to integrate some of these things on your own. If you want some help integrating these systems, go ahead and book a call below with me, and we can chat, or you can just message me on Instagram at Sharik Warsi. But thanks for watching, and subscribe.